Live. Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is your April 25th, 2014 edition, and for at least us in Chicago, I think we've broken the back of winter. I don't want to talk too fast because last Monday we had 2 inches of snow, but things are looking pretty good here. C2E2 is, I believe it's going on now at McCormick Place here in Chicago, so those of you who may be listening or listening afterwards, that was our big weekend event here in Chicago. And our guest today, our special guest today, I'm William Hayashi, I'm your host. Our special guest today is Corey Burkes. He's the head of the studio operations at DesktopEpics Entertainment. And he's been doing that for a decade now. For those of you who want to check out the site, it's www.DesktopEpics.com, all one word. And then you can check him out on LinkedIn or CoreyBurkesBrandYourself.com. Corey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. Where are you coming to us from now? Let me look here.
Georgia? Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, how is it down there? I guess now you can carry a gun anywhere in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, and if you don't carry one, you can get arrested. Does that make any sense?
Well, this is going to be good for me if I ever drive through there because I always carry, but this way I probably won't get any trouble. Just out of curiosity, what are you hearing about that? I mean, we hear the news part, but I hear that the police departments of many municipalities, state patrol, and people like that have been fighting this for quite some time, and yet the governor still signed it.
Exactly. Well, we're the red state, and, it's not as bad here. It's like, things go on in Texas. But what happened recently out here was I know the governor signed off on allowing to carry into certain areas, provided the establishment or the person who runs the establishment says no. Like the first thing that came on the radio the other day was like, Governor Deal, yeah, he signed off on you could bring your weapon to church. But if the minister says, no, don't bring it, then you can't bring it. But you can bring it in there. And I when I first heard that, I was like, no plowshares here. That ain't going to happen. But so, the legislation went through that, and they still got more things to do, and, that's what's happening. And earlier, when I mentioned about getting arrested, that's a joke, but there is on the books in Kennesaw that every house must have a weapon, and they can fine you if you don't. And that's never enforced, but I always thought that was funny.
Okay. See, these are places where, and I'll be honest with you, I've been, I've owned weapons practically all of my adult life, which is kind of different when you think about, what's a Japanegro doing carrying a bunch of guns? But I mean, I understand the concept. I spent some time as a peace officer, but this just seems like a recipe for disaster. But enough about that. Let's not talk politics. Let's talk you. Did you actually grow up in the area?
No, sir. I actually grew up in Jamaica, Queens. Shout out to Jamaica, Queens. 40 Project.
Okay.
Cambridge Heights, Jamaica, Queens. Much of Long Island. That's right.
And how long did you live there? I mean.
Atlanta, this is going on 8 to 9 years, but most of my life in New York.
Mm-hmm. Well, what brought you to Atlanta?
Oh, my gosh. You ready for that?
Sure.
Well, let's see. Started off in New York, son of a plow sharecropper. And what happened was that what had happened was in a relationship marriage and, out there, and divorced, and my kids came out this way to Albany, Georgia, and I was coming out here frequently to pick them up for summers and holidays and that sort of thing. And then, but it was getting too much, so got into another relationship, and then we moved out to Georgia to be closer to them, but not that close. So it was like a 3-hour drive from Atlanta to Albany. And I've been here ever since. I can't be too far away from the kids.
Sure. Well, a lot of people are like that. I mean, and it does make sense. Let me ask you this. I mean, when you were growing up, in school and things like that. I mean, it's obvious that you do a number of things. I mean, and I'm kind of intrigued by this inventor part, but we'll come back around that.
Yeah, sure.
But in would you consider do you call yourself a creative writer? Is that, one of the quivers in or one of the arrows in your quiver? And then also, I guess what I'm getting around to is what kinds of early manifestations of your creativity went on, as you were growing up?
Oh, sure. You could say the primary, like the core of Corey, in a way, is being a creative writer. Definitely a creative writer, which later on bled into a full-blown author. That's the basis of everything that I start with, because growing up, I always want to do film, always want to do animation. We're talking from I was born in 1968, so we're talking like the 70s. So I always want to get into these things, but hard to do it. My mother's Super 8 camera never had any film. So when Star Wars came out, I was, tying up action figures and spaceships on the ceiling, trying to do all the, like filming, because back then you would see like the making of Star Wars, and you see all these guys doing like their making of like the spaceships and like doing their own little films. And I was like, oh, let me get this Super 8 and get it going. Hey, Mom, can I get some film? No. So I was doing the best I can. But you always had paper and pencil. So what I couldn't do in film, I was writing, constantly writing stories and just developing more and more. And that just kept on going through the years. And you know what? The ability to do a film is still difficult, but we'll get into that. Here I am.
Well, I mean, but the cool part about having gone through that, I mean, first of all, you picked up your desire early. Okay, you were kind of into the mix early, and now that we're into 2014, when you look at the tools available, doing your own work, doing your own film and stuff is far more accessible than we could have even imagined back then.
Yeah,
somebody back then would have said to you, "Hey, you can do your own cartoon, and you could do it in this really cool 3D style instead of all flat and everything." You'd look at them and go, "You've got to be crazy." Not even because of where you lived or anything, but shoot, I couldn't imagine having that kind of disposable income and being able to spend it on something like that. But nowadays, I mean, you get a fairly good computer. You buy some decent software. If you have a very creative mind, there's so much more you can do.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, as you went through that evolution of seeing more capability and things like that, I mean, what did you actually get done at around at that age? Was it? I mean, you didn't have film for the camera. So I mean, how did you funnel that creativity back then?
All of it straight onto paper and pencil, lined paper, anything. Any amount of time to do some writing is primarily where I was at. I mean, down the line, eventually I got my hands on some film, but by then everybody's talking 16 millimeter, and and then we're going into video cam or handy cams and those sort of things, where these big blocky cameras for VHS things, and the depth of field was never any good for those things. So I would, and then I remember back in the day, remember the Fisher Price, it was like a camera that you could shoot with like a regular audio tape, and you can have you could shoot like a little film on this audio tape. It was a toy. It was great. It was like a little camera, and we tried doing things with that, and it was always some sort of obstacle, because the opportunities today, just like you said, weren't then. The avenues to get to certain film festivals, it was just a little difficult unless you had the money, the editing equipment, and so on. So most of my time was spent writing and carving an understanding of how to tell a story with what I had. And usually it wasn't much, but then what happened was the more I wrote, the more I started collecting storyline concepts and that sort of thing. And then that's where the creative writing author came out of, because of which I encourage to anybody else. Always work with what you have, because that's the muscle that you're building, you're growing on. And try not to envy other people who have more than you, because believe it or not, your gift is important. Yeah. So that's how it all started for me. Just writing, constantly writing, developing characters, backgrounds to characters, understanding that. And because if I couldn't film it, at least I had it on paper and show it to like family members. Hey, look, you can't see the film because I don't have anything for that yet. But hey, look, read this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really
And what kind of encouragement did you get from your family?
It's interesting. The encouragement. All right, like in most families, you have like this balance of those who have a little bit more and
Sure.
those who have less. And I guess my family, immediate family structure was in the middle. So I was always looking at the family that had more, and I would pass off things to them, say, hey, I wrote this, and they were very encouraging. They were like, oh, they'd read it and say, oh, that's great, and very encouraging. Now, ultimately, I would show things to my mother, who was working 2, 3, 4 jobs, and I'm going to school or whatever, and then I'm coming back home and she's not there. Hey, do you have time to read this? No. And it's not that she didn't have encouragement, but it's hard to give encouragement to somebody if they're sleeping before the next job. Now, growing up, I was like, my mom, she doesn't care about what I do. But as I gotten older, because I'm 45 now, I see. It's, looking back, I see that it wasn't so much that she didn't care, or the family members who were too busy working, trying to keep a roof over their heads didn't care. It's just that they didn't have time. And,
right.
One could argue you don't have time for 10 years or more, but still, that was what's going on. So, yeah, most of the family that was who knew the value of pushing harder, to work harder, to own their own business, because these are the families who had more. They had their own business and so on. They were the ones who had enough time to come back around and say, hey, this is good. This is where your problems are. This is where you can fix things. And then they would vanish for a while because they were on their way to Bahamas or something,
Sure. Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so, you kind of glommed on a Star Wars early, and I'm thinking that the whole, science fiction or, space opera thing was creatively good to you. Would that be fair to say?
Nurturing, it was.
Yeah, nurturing. Okay. And so, I mean, at that time, were you just into like films and television, or did you also read? Where did your inspiration come from? Besides, besides the obvious, besides,
right.
Checking out the first run movies and things like that.
Exactly. And, regretfully, I would have to say the majority of that was from there. And also a lot of Japanese animation of the time, like what was Battle of the Planets at the time, Astro Boy, that sort of thing. As far as reading a lot of books, it wasn't so much that I would, and this is a strange thing, I didn't do that much reading novel-wise. I mean, yeah, I read Han Solo at Star's End and all that good stuff, because, but it was only until I met some really, 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 really good friends out in, toward high school, like my good friend named Paul Haberman and, Brian and Keith Merritt and all that, really good friends. These guys out there, they introduced me into a lot of reading of paperback books, thrillers, and so on and so forth. But prior to high school, I wasn't doing a lot of reading, more like magazines and that sort of thing. But oddly enough, trying to write a novel without reading one, and, that's one of many mistakes over the years of, that you kind of grow up to understand that you can't necessarily be the writer you want to be unless you read some of the writers you want to be.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah, no. I mean, I understand that. I mean, it's not always true. I mean, look,
true.
Sarah Palin has written 4 more books than she's read. So, I mean, it can be done. But, yeah. I understand. So, like, when you were in school, did you take any classes or did you do anything that kind of, like, nurtured the growth of your interest?
Oh, yeah. Well, no and yes. After I didn't finish high school, and and I got a GED. And now prior to the GED, I was I can say that with pride. It just rolled off. Anyway, what happened was I had a class in what was that? It was a writing class in high school, and the teacher there was really interested in work I was doing, and she was kind to me, but I wasn't. School and I were not friends. I just could not pay attention enough in school to sit still, and man, I ran through high school and junior high school and high school like a bad fever. I was not in there. And later on, I discovered why, and we'll get to that later. But my time in school was hanging out with friends who enjoyed going to like little science fiction fantasy conventions. That sort of little. At the time, it was the science. What was it? Fantasy science fiction fantasy society, something like that. But in any case, that's when all the Japanese animation we were getting was from VHSs from pen pals. Great time. Really started where I learning how to, have that kind of friends. But while I was still doing that, my friends were wise enough to keep going to school, and they went to college and all that. So how did that work out? You got to pay attention to yourself moving forward, because you can have your friends around you who may actually still be moving forward in the right direction, even though you think everybody's just hanging out and cutting from school. So and that was some of the flaws I had back then. Finding out about a lot of things later on in life.
Yeah, but we have so many creatives out there, and in so many fields who did not, who didn't go to college, who didn't do this, who did things unconventionally, and sometimes very, very creative people are not prone to doing things, that conventionally. So and look where you are today. Obviously, it wasn't such a hindrance that you can't do the great things that you're doing. Take me, for example. I have the finest sixth grade education that the Chicago Board of Ed can provide a person.
Woohoo!
And,
all right,
but,
brother, all right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, me and Jethro Bodine, we done made it through the sixth grade. So, but seriously, it obviously wasn't something that held you back. Yeah, you could see people pass you going in a direction, but it's not necessarily like they're passing you by.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I can contribute one factor through all that, because there were times where I was just about to give up. It was constantly being yelled at by teachers. It was like, oh, you're not applying yourself. You're an underachiever. All this stuff. Got left back a few times. Got all sorts of resource rooms. And then to come back home, your mom's yelling at you, but she has no that much time to yell at you because she has to go to work. So I'm relying on yourself to do all these things. And I got to contribute. Any success I have today, I have to contribute to such great friends I've had in the past. And not that they spent their time preaching to me, because, kids aren't going to preach to each other, oh, you better stay in school. No. It's about a role modeling process that goes on. Now, we speak a lot.
Mentoring. Yeah,
exactly.
Mentoring. Yeah.
We spend our time saying, hey, as fathers, we have to be a mentor or a role model to our kids. And most of that is the best part of doing that. It's not just yelling and smacking your kid around. Of course not. It's more of just being, acting it and doing it so the child watches you. And I was watching my friends. Their parents were strict on them about going to school. Their parents were this and do that. And I would say, hey, let's go hang out. No, I got to do my homework. Then I would hang out with them. I would go back home feeling I need to do something too. Eventually, you get this feeling in you that, hey, I want more. My friends want more. I want more. I see they get more. And I was blessed to be with friends and families of friends who are like surrogate family members too, who brought me to a point to be, hey, Corey, you can get more than this. And let me tell you, culturally speaking, the majority of the friends who were telling me this were of course, Caucasian. But then I had, where I lived in Jamaica, Queens, I had some good friends there too. That was not a problem. They were very highly educated and going to school, and their parents pushed them too. But I went to school, not in my neighborhood. I went out of the neighborhood. And it could have went all sorts of ways. And I feel blessed that all sets of friends of all races have been very positive, and their families too, to help me move along, as opposed to, going a darker direction. So I appreciated, that mentoring, as you mentioned.
So when you started writing, were you doing short stories, scripts, novels? I understand the joke about, reading a novel before you write a novel.
Right.
But what kind of writing were you doing at the time? Because obviously it's led into something pretty successful. So as you were laying your writing chops groundwork down, what were you writing at the time?
As a matter of fact, I think I have like some of my first work in this bin over here. But it was science fiction, blatant robberies of Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and just blatantly, what I distinctly remember writing stories that were never too far away from like anything Steven Spielberg wrote.
Okay, sure.
Over time, I got sick of it because I wanted something of my own, and then seeing like the sea of Japanese animation that came out, and all that stuff, and I was like, all these stories are like crazy. I want to get down on this, but I wanted something of my own. So it's going to take. It took time to build that kind of like muscle of building something original coming out of you, and but yeah, most of the time, I was writing science fiction. Some intergalactic battle between this, that, and the other thing, and then G.I. Joe would come out, and I loved the storylines they had back in the day, where you had to come back to like where all the teams broke off into 4 different parts of the world and go like the snow or the jungle, and and there's always this 4-part miniseries, whatnot, and I love that, and I created characters like in that vein. And these are the things that built the foundation to like understanding, well, okay, these stories work. I want to do that. I want people to go to a movie theater or read a book and feel the same way I feel when I do this. But I got to find a way to develop something of my own. And anything you do, from going to the gym to finding a new job to writing a story, it's a muscle. You build that muscle. And and I think that's the relative aspect of all of life. Just work it, it will build, and you will be strong. And I think I'm fairly strong at this. In fact, maybe I'm a little crazy at it now. But yeah.
Well, creative people are not regular people. I mean, I don't think anybody, is willing to argue that, because if you have the kind of mind that can sit down and write a book, not everybody can do that. Not everybody does do that. I mean, there are so fewer people who write books than read books that it obviously is a talent that takes more than just being able to tell a good story, but you also have to have, the gumption to stick to it. You have to be able to, you got to schedule your time. You got to do all those sorts of things. So, that muscle that you're talking about that you exercise was it was basically a muscle group. It wasn't a single muscle, because here you are, you've done a series now, you've done a bunch of things in the past, and all of those things grew out of, if you wanted to be, some people get down on themselves, it grew out of a guy who never went to college, he didn't do this, he got a GED, but that's irrelevant. Fact of the matter is, creatively, you produced.
I needed to. I felt like I had.
Yeah, and so what drove your storylines? I mean, when you started getting away from copying, Spielberg and the rest in terms of their plots and things like that, where did you get your storylines? Where did all that come from?
That I know, another I guess you could say praising, I guess, of my mother. I mean, I got to give my mother credit for the storyline, the story trends that I've been writing lately, especially mostly featuring women in strong lead roles. Now, my mother and I go toe to toe often. We argue like crazy, but that's because we're similar. She wanted to be a dancer. She had high aspirations to be a dancer. She even danced at Carnegie Hall once. I remember that story. She even started a business, even though at one point she stopped working in multiple jobs. She even opened a catering business. So I'm mentioning all this because this is the person I watched, doing things. She went to go deliver cakes, and I was in the car, had to wait. It was an exciting visual time, and that sort of thing doesn't leave you. It stays in your DNA. Watching someone progressively doing things, getting things, wanting something. And then, and it obviously bled into the storylines, which at the time I started really writing more original works, there just wasn't that many, women in lead roles and storylines and that sort of thing. We're talking like late 80s into the 90s. I was like, I can corner this market. But, we're also talking at a time where it's hard to get a book written into the the gatekeeper atmosphere of the publishing industry back then. Boy, I know they're mad now. I wish I could have published an ebook back then. But that's where I got it. It starts with my mother, and wanting to present characters that were driven, and then we'll talk about the friends that I've been around and the comedy of like some of the great friends that I've been with. They would have just one-liners that you just needed to put in. Oh, and of course, I have 2 sisters, 2 brothers, Elaine, Kim, Terrence, and Jimmy. And Kim, my sister Kim, she's the master one-liner. Do not argue with Kim. She has the nerve to start doing. She's public speaking now with the Toastmasters. So she's very sharp with her point, and you don't want to argue with her. But I've time and time again I'm using some of her lines in a story. So and it's the people around you. And over time you start looking at life and the people around you, and then just applying that to your storylines. There's something I said. I used to tell this story to everybody back in the day. I haven't said it in a long time, so forgive me if you heard this before. When I was about 5 years old, I remember really furiously wanting to write great stories, do something to make my mother happy, And
sure.
I remember praying. I was like, is there any way I can be like the greatest storyteller on earth? I want to be able to tell the greatest stories ever. And in many ways since then, I strongly believe, I've heard the call, and it was like, okay. And the best way, and that answer came through living life, a very full and round life. Nothing too harsh to get, thrown in prison for, nothing like that, or drugs or nothing. And I barely drink or at all, really. Nothing like that. I don't smoke and nothing like that. But I've seen a lot, done a lot, and that much contribute to the storylines. I have seen a lot in life, experienced and cried, yelled, fought, whatnot, and a lot of that story and depth of characters brought into my characters too from the things I experienced, and that ended up being the answer I was looking for to be the greatest storyteller ever, if I could. And is to live life. You have to see the life around you, and and that's where I'm at now.
That's pretty cool. And a lot of people take their life's experiences and really pull creatively from them. Sometimes a little too creatively, as we saw with some of those authors that Oprah got sucked in by.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is the best writers write from their impressions of the world around them, because those are real experiences. Mm-hmm. And there's an authenticity to the people, the characters, sometimes the universes they create that really transcends, average writing, because what they're doing is they're not so much writing, but they're reporting. They're reporting on, this is the life that goes on around me, and here's my interpretation of what went on, and this is how it happened. And those stories are brilliant, because they're people can identify authenticity in a heartbeat, and then they can relate to experiences that they have all shared.
Right.
So, it sounds like a very, very good way of formulating your stories. Let's talk a little bit about the Buddha series.
Yay, Buddha! Yeah, thank you.
Why don't you tell everybody where that came from, and be sure to tell a little bit about how you came up with the characters.
Okay, not a problem. Thanks for asking. I really appreciate that.
No, I got a cheat sheet here. It's like
blue
cards of Letterman and Fallon. No, I'm just kidding.
That's okay. It's great, but I do appreciate that. Well, okay. I have this. I call it the vault, but I have this this plastic Walmart bin, right? And it is packed to the brim with stories. Now, okay, you might think 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, but it's really like toilet tissue. Where I was in the bathroom, I got this idea, or a napkin. While I'm at dinner, 20 years back, I'm on a date, and I'm like, I got this idea, and the date's looking at me like I'm crazy. Or it's packed with stories, little notebooks, all that stuff. Now, in that vault was the story I had called Expert Thieves, and it was written back in the 80s or the late 80s, something like that. Anyway, totally had a male lead character, and that's that. It was just this big heist story about diamonds and stuff. Now, here's the thing that I do want to, that's interesting. Again, I'm not the most religious person on earth. I'm not. But there's some quotes that make sense that, where you'll hear nothing's new under the sun, that sort of thing. And the problem is, like, I would have written, at least at the time, something original. Let's say back in '85, I wrote some really good story. And then come a few years later, suddenly somebody's doing a film that's come similar to it, And then, that trashes that story, so I have to keep it in there. Or maybe I'll adapt it. So what happened was I took that story out and then started molding it out of, like, the other stories and kind of, like, piecing things together. And then one day, I had some family members come to me and say, hey, Corey, you have any one story that you would want to publish? And I pulled that one out. But at that time, I was like, there could be a better way to present the story with, like, a more robust female lead. And it was, like, back in 2006, summer 2006 or September 2006, I wrote this story. 6 months later, about January or February 2007, I was finished with it, and then the rest of the month was editing. So by July 2007, Butter and the Tower of Bling came out. And I saw, and that was the original title of the series, the first book. Buddha and the Tower of Bling. Now, why is it like that? It's because I thought this was going to be my one and only book, because I had some family, they said they were going to, help me get it published and put it out there. And I was like, thank you. So being that I thought this was my one and only shot at doing it, and self-publishing or desktop publishing at the time was, coming of it, toward its age, I thought I was done. I was like, well, here's this book. It's going to fail. I'm done. Turns out, it, I wouldn't say it blew up, but it sold a lot more than I was prepared for. It sold more, and it did very well. And I was like, if I knew this was going to happen, I wouldn't have called it, Tower of Bling in that, that Raiders of the Lost Ark type of, feel. I would have took it more seriously. But it did its job, and and it kept on moving. And so I was like, okay, I'm an author now. Hooray! Because I finally, I would do this for free if I could. Get, just entertain people. Let them, tell a good story. I'm that Indian around the fire telling you stories of old. I'm that guy. And I'm cool with it. Just pass me some coconuts. I'm good. But, hey, I want to continue doing this for people. And that was, I never, aside from my children, who I love so much, I know if, they're listening. Aside from you guys, being able to tell people a solid story where they walk away from me feeling like their hearts are lifted and they got something inspired is enough for me. So that's why when we get into this ebook era where, we can you could do a book today on Monday. By Wednesday, you can upload it to Amazon if you write that fast and you edit fast too. And by Friday, you'll be making money if, general chain of things. Now, geez, back in the day, you had to write your book, type it, on a typewriter. Typewriter. Yeah, I know people are asking, what's that? Anyway, back in the day, you had to do that, get the right ribbon. Make sure you send it out. Get your little pink slip back or a little paper back saying, thanks, will we pass, from whatever publisher. Keep shipping it around. Now, this day, you can command your time. So, shoot from 2007 to 2011, I decided it was time to rewrite Butter, the first book, into something a little bit more normal. And then that's when I did the ebook, and then the sequel came out a few years later. Now, the reason there's gaps of time between novels, because there's a nice little fan club of Butter readers out there who send me emails every time and saying, when's the next book coming out? I'm sorry for the delay, but life has taken over, and things are changing now, and it'll be improving. But life gets in the way a little bit, divorce, this, that, and the other thing. And then I'm afraid that I'm not that much of a textbook creative writer where I can write based off of what some teacher taught me. All of this is really taught by myself. And because of that, I put my emotions into the writing. So as I'm writing emotionally, and literally, I will write a story, and I kid you not, I will start crying at a part where I need to put in somebody's crying because I want to, it's just that I'm feeling what needs to be happening, and then the flow. I can go into a whole big creative thing, and that sounds like psychotic, but hey, look, it works. Anyway, and it's because of that. If I am stressed and things going on in my life, family or whatnot, I can't write. I just can't do it. And and at those times, I wish I was a little bit more learned in the art of creative writing and more of a structured, hey, put that stuff aside and write this down. But no, I can't. But that's the way it is. But in any case, after Butter, the ebook came out. The sequel, Butter Worldwide, was finally written. In between divorces. It's because that was a peaceful.
That'll
time.
happen.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll happen.
I get more done when I'm not married. But anyway.
Well, but
you didn't hear that. You didn't hear that from me.
No. That's ironic because I never would have written my first book had I not gotten divorced. Because I was sitting there thinking, you got all this time on your hands, you got these stories running around in your head,
right,
and they don't exist until you put them on paper. Well,
right.
Divorce is a great time provider for you, because all of a sudden things are different. Your life is conducted differently. And a lot of people take a lot of different things away from their life's experiences. And if you can take something like a divorce and turn it into time or talent or observational, humor, or even, I've got a book that I've been trying to write. Well, actually, I started it back in the 70s. And I knew it would sell on the title alone, and if somebody steals the title, fine. But the impetus wasn't there. Then all of a sudden, I get divorced in 2000, 2001, and bam, I write a 750-page novel in 9 months. So
there you go.
You can be driven by all kinds of different things, but essentially what it is whatever feeds or cooks off your creative juices. And the inspiration can come from anywhere. Some people write out of tragedy. Some people have a horrible thing happen. Maybe a cherished family member passes away, and yet they can turn it into chicken. What do they call that? Chicken soup for the soul, or whatever.
Exactly.
Well,
Hey,
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Creative outlet.
So
writing otherwise
is
therapy. It could be therapy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. So describe the characters and the plot and what kind of story you came up with.
Okay, no problem. The way I just, I'm terrible. Let me first tell you that I'm terrible at describing things sometimes. I would not be the guy who walks into a production company and says, "Hey, you got to pitch me your script in like one line." I'm not that guy.
Right.
I will fail you. But so give me, so bear with me. Basically,
well, here, let me make it easy for you.
Oh, thank you.
Your principal character is a woman named Butter, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so how old is she? Is she younger, going into womanhood? Is she an older woman? What? Go ahead.
Mid-20s. By the first book, she's in her mid-20s, like say 24, 23, 24. And,
okay, where does she live?
Well, primarily
Urban, rural?
Oh, well, it used to be. She grew up in Louisiana, and by the time the first book starts, she's based in New York, Manhattan, New York City.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And okay, I can go with the story. She basically the bottom line of the story is that her family was wiped out by this guy who wanted the secrets to see. Her father made this invention called the Gisela device. It's a what you would call a diamond making machine, synthetic diamonds, and he pretty much make it right out of his barn. And he went ahead and some guy tried to take it from him and kill off his entire family, but it got away, and now she's grew up to gain vengeance to her family. Now and then the story flows from there, and it was really brief because it's like about 120 something pages of it. Or no. I forgot how many pages it was, but but anybody who reads it says it reads quick, and that it was, because I didn't know it was going to last that long. But it's her and her core friends, Munch, Casey, and Trigger, and they're all helping her get into this massive tower that the person who took her father's invention created this whole diamond empire, and she's got to go in there and she wants to kill him. But most of the story is based on even though you were wrong, should you go ahead and try to do something as dark as this. Let's try to kill this person, especially if this person is big. Like, you don't just say, hey, wake up one day and say, I'm going to go and kill the president, because you kill that, you got a lot of things going on after that. But in this case, this person's bad. He has a lot of influence into the the dark world of things, and most of the people that she needed to get close to him are advising her not to kill him because he's necessary for the wheels to turn. Toward the end of the story, of course, she gets the upper hand on this, and the rest of the story continues on from there. As the whole diamond concept comes to a conclusion, and she feels she needs to still get some sort of closure. The story continues over into South Africa and different parts of the world, in Butter Worldwide, and that's where the story really comes to its end. And then moving into the third book, which is still almost finished now, called Buttercream. That's where we start really the more newer adventures for Butter, because by the time you get to the end of Worldwide, she finally comes to grips with how to handle the situation about her family going, and she gets into finding new people in her life, and we move forward from there. Now, these stories, the story started with that first one, Butter, and moved into Butter Worldwide, and then Buttercream. They're all developed based around her, who wants to lead a normal life, but lots of action, lots of adventure. Now, the first story was written in 2007. By 2011, suddenly there's a movie that comes out called, what was the name? Colombiana. Yeah, I was so mad. I put this book out in 2007. Colombiana comes out in 2011, and I even gave that whole production company a shout-out saying thanks for taking. If you see the story, you'll see the story. The stories are very similar and almost criminal. But hey,
okay,
we move on. And that's,
well, you don't think there was any? You don't think somebody borrowed your idea, do you?
I would never say that, because first I couldn't prove it, and like I said before, you write something, eventually an idea comes out right after that, and
sure.
I could say the same thing for I did an audio theater play called The Shyster Club. I did this back in 2004. 2004. It was basically like one of those old-time radio programs, and
sure.
It's about a club that provides alibis for your cheating spouse, and it was like this whole adventure of people getting away with things. That came out in 2004. The script was there. It was playing on podcasts. Podcast theater was big, and then shoot to 2006. There's an CSI episode that comes out. Well, okay. First of all, let me give you a backstory. The Shyster Club is this place that helps people with their alibis. It's run by this British woman who is she has like this whole big operator like setup. It's like think of like a call center, and she runs the whole thing. It's a big rich thing, and people have secret codes and that sort of good stuff. And the stars of this story was the British woman, one of the call center girls, and some married guy. So shoot to 2006 or 2005. CSI comes out with an episode, and my friend, a good actor friend, Russell Jordan, he told me about this because he starred in the audio drama that I did. He said, "Corey, you got to look at this." And so I'm looking at the CSI episode, and it's on YouTube somewhere, and I had the link a couple of websites back. Anyway, well, the cops have to go investigate some sort of murder, and so they go to this place that provides alibis. And guess what? There's a British woman who runs the place, and they have this call center set up. And I was like, oh, I got robbed. Now that was a blatant example of it. So to wonder if anybody takes anything, I'm actually honored, because I can pick a few other things over time that seems very similar. But I would sound like a madman if I kept saying, oh, well, somebody took. I don't care, really, because I generate more than I would rather deal with lawsuits and stuff, and I can't prove it anyway,
Sure.
So if somebody's tapping me for these things, I'm honored, really. I'm grateful. And then one day if I stop writing, we'll see what happens out there. No, wait, there was a time I stopped writing, and that's why you got all this reality programming on. No, I'm just joking.
I was just going to say, yeah, the Housewives of Pick Your City and
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
Wasn't Cops like the first reality show that came out?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
I remember the very first episode of that. It was down in Florida, probably near Orlando or something, and some cops were chasing after two brothers who had just robbed a convenience store. And so they're running through some marshy area, and the cops and the cameraman almost can't catch up to them and keep up because they're laughing so hard. And so we don't get to see why until they catch up with the kids, and the cameraman zooms in on the shoes, and these guys were running around in the dark in in this swampy area, and they had those damn shoes on that every time you took a step, a little light came on.
Right.
So I figured I was done with that show.
Wow.
All right, so you've got this whole creative universe that you've put together, and I would say well-developed characters.
Thank you.
How big a run do you think this is going to be? Do you have a lot more stories to tell in the line, or is this something that you're going to kind of wrap up and you have new things that you want to do? Some people don't like to revisit their old stuff, and some people like to stick with it because it's very familiar.
Right. You're absolutely right. And particularly for Buddha, there are 12 stories written, or at least outlined, that I know that I wanted. And there's a story and character arc that I definitely want to complete. And so it isn't. I don't. How am I going to say it? I do know the storyline that I want to tell. 12 books only and total, and then that's that. My problem is that, as I mentioned, is I'm the serial writer and story generator. So, okay, let me back up a little bit more and say that, as much as I'm writing and I love doing what I'm doing, and there's a modest amount of success with what I'm doing, modest. I don't want to give any illusions that, I'm sitting high on the hog anywhere, I do as much as I can. I have a regular day job. I work for Apple, by the way. They make enough money for me to say that I'm not plugging them. I can tell you that much. In fact, they probably wouldn't want me to say it. Whatever, I don't care. Anyway, I live a modest life. I have a good job. I try to take care of the kids and see the kids when I can. And but I want more. That desire for more is still there. Now, and I know I have the ability to do that. And so, okay, I'll write a book, or I'll finish the book, and sales would be okay. Nice little extra check from Amazon. That's beautiful. No problem. But it's not enough to put me at that plateau that I'm trying to get to, where the original level was film, where I can get up in there. And so every day, every waking minute, I am constantly saying, what can I do to get from this level to this level, like a good video game, I got to beat the boss, which is whatever bills, rent, whatnot. I got to get to this level, and I'm saying this to myself every day. So what happens is, I have to look back at when you don't have a lot, you have to look at the stuff that isn't working. Now, you got people who will say, oh, well, never give up, never, and I agree with that. Don't give up on anything you're doing, but you also have to economize your life on what's not working. So, okay, for instance, I have some friends out in New York. And they're saying, hey, Corey, you know what? I'm going to open this business. I'm going to be a lawyer. And in this lawyer place, I'm going to do hair. And while I'm doing hair in here also, I'm going to fried chicken. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Okay. So they get this corporation going. They get the storefront. They get all this stuff. And then suddenly they're supposed to be doing taxes while cooking chicken, and suddenly the chicken's not working, and they're doing the hair. They can't do the hair because, oil's getting all over the place. This is a mess, And then, you got to look at it. You got to ask yourself, what's not working? Yeah, you want to try moving forward, but really, maybe you got to do that one thing or maybe the two things. And, at this point, and when, times and finance and whatnot get kind of a struggle, yeah, some things need to get put down. And trying to find the next thing that works a little better. Now, growing up, I can be easily accused of dropping things and picking up things and starting something new. And that, you might want to contribute to what I recently discovered as having adult ADHD. Okay. Apparently, right? Yeah. Yeah. Can't you tell? and that, explains a lot of things. And it's important to know what is going on in your life, internally and externally, so you can make the right changes so you can get back in line. And that was one defining thing, discovering what was going on so I could move in a more aligned way. And I did not want to keep putting things down and stopping things. I wanted to just finish things. Now, unfortunately, you know, life around you may be on its own ADHD, you know, and you can't control a lot of things around you. But
yeah, it doesn't always cooperate. I mean,
exactly.
You know, the old joke is, you know, God invented time so that everything didn't happen all at once. But you know, sometimes you find out that things take a different turn.
Exactly. And you know, and you gotta pick your battles, as they say, and just pick what you need to get done. And I'm saying all this to say that most of what I want to finish, I had to stop because of either finances or time, or something was going on with the kids. I had to put it down, and then by the time it's time to pick it up, I had to do something a little faster than the slow length of time of getting a book sold. Now, you know, which is the whole marketing is a different thing. So the delays in some of the stories are based off of what stresses were going on in life at the time, in addition to the internal stresses that I, you know, discovered about myself. So these days, and that's why I'm so happy to be on your show, because I feel like this is a milestone, a very important milestone. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to you, William and Jarvis. I appreciate you guys, because last year it wasn't like this. Last year was a bad time, and you know, coming out of all that madness of, you know, relationship and whatnot.
Sure.
So, so here we are, 1 year to almost a day, and I am 10 times better. You know, I'm not going to say I'm definitely still not like living on the house on the hill, but focus is much better. Desire to get something and actually accomplishing and getting it done is much better. And I'm happy for that. So I can finish all the things that I've dropped in the past. Oh, like Watch Band, which is the new animation that's coming out soon, which is a great example of how I got this where it's at now compared to when I tried before. But once again, you can't do a lot of work under stress of, like, you know, family and that sort of thing. But now it's such a better time now.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, and the other part of that is that, you know, when you can take a breath, sometimes that helps steady yourself so that you can kind of concentrate on exactly what it is that you have to accomplish. A lot of people don't reach that well. I had an instance where it was different for me. I mean, I had a fire in my place.
Oh no, really?
And it was and it was set by the maintenance guy of all people. So, but you know, when the fire department guys were leaving, and I was looking around, I was completely lost. It's like, where do you start? And sometimes the business of doing business is like that too. You know, people look around and they go, well, I want to do something. I want to start a business, and where do I start? What do I? And it's a tough thing. So being able to focus is obviously essential to getting things done. And then, you know, a bunch of people that I've spoken to on this show have said that, you know, the part about being a creative talent is relatively small compared to the part that they have to devote, the time and energy they have to devote to the business of doing business.
Oh yeah.
So
true.
It's you know, getting that balance is essential. Figuring out what you need to do to move things forward to the next level is essential. And you know, I think it's just a matter of trial and error. I mean, I don't think anybody. I mean, let's say you go to Harvard, you get an MBA. Is that going to make you a successful creative writer? I think not.
You're absolutely right.
You know, getting an MBA doesn't assure anybody of being able to tell a good story.
Right.
But being an MBA may help you on the business side in terms of where do I concentrate my time, effort, and the few dollars I have to maximize my return. So it's a wide open thing, being a creative. It's just wide open, and what it demands of you can be pretty big. You know, you watch people and, they go, oh, I got to get on Facebook. And then I go, oh, so you can tell all your friends who already know you what you got.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then,
exactly.
and then people call me a bunch of names for that, but essentially that's what Facebook is. Facebook is announcing, if you've got 30,000 friends, that's pretty significant.
It is.
So, again, you have to know how to strategically use the tools you have at hand.
Oh, yeah.
It's mentioned in your bio that you are an inventor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell us what did you invent? If as long as it's not Defense Department related,
no,
it's going to get us all in trouble.
No. Nothing like that. And in fact, I classify myself an inventor because I have come up with a couple of things that I've worked on, and there was an effort just not too long ago to try to get something patented, and so that accomplishment alone got me where I want to be as far as that is concerned, because I feel really positive about some of the things I've worked on, particularly in robotics, and I have what isn't known too much is that I have a strong interest in missing people. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that I have a little bit of a knack to ask the right question to find it, because this whole social atmosphere is really huge, obviously, online and so on. But what you don't hear enough of is enough of us trying to find people who are just winding up missing. Because according to certain statistics, you'll hear someone's missing every 22 seconds or so, and that's almost real. If you turn around, you look at all the people who are missing out there. It's ridiculous. But we're not focusing on that. So I came up, with little things, either from an app to this kind of like assistant thing to help locate people. It's been an interesting ride to get that off the ground, but I think the app was going to probably come a little sooner. But I can't do all that and still try to get writing and everything done. So a lot of that gets put on hold. But it's always been a desire to wonder, where somebody is, and I think most of the problem when we're trying to find somebody is about asking the right questions. So I had this app concept on asking those exact questions based on logic, and piecing things together, especially with the way we have opportunity to pull certain data down, like Google Maps and so on. So this is such a great opportunity. You can literally, if you get the right questions asked about someone or missing loved one, you can literally start tracking down and narrowing down or triangulating in a way where somebody is. And I'm really excited about trying to get that off the ground. But I'm only one man, and as we just spoke about, multitasking and doing many things, something will drop. Was it the master of many? Was it something master of many? Something of none, as they say. And of course, you just knocked it right out of my head. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my fault.
No. Something of many and master of none, or
exactly.
I forget what it is. Yeah, someone will type it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And I didn't want to get into that of like, well, today I'm working on that, and then the next thing I'm writing writing the books. I'm trying to finish a bulk of what's on the plate now, and then come around to that later. On that invention line is also this concept on with a robotic thing. I'm trying to. I have a successful, drawn out concept of a what would be kind of like helping people take like pictures of themselves. Like, let's say you're in a group shot, and you need some. You ever needed somebody to take a picture of you and a few other people, and it's hard to find somebody to hold the camera for you. Now there's a lot of things out there that that sit on a table, but I have a concept, and my friend here is telling me to keep quiet. If I have a concept here,
I mean, don't give away your idea. I mean, I don't want you to do that.
Yeah, but it's all right. I don't want it to seem like it's also ominous. But and first, not only that, but I challenge somebody to try to develop it. It's crazy. It's kind of like a portable, like robot of a sense, and it's like balances on like kind of like a pole. You're going in and using gyroscopes and all that, and basically all you do is put your iPhone or Android phone on it, and then literally it'll roll with you where you need to go, and take pictures as you want. And you could just like do voice commands, like say, hey, take a picture, and it'll just follow you. Now, it sounds crazy because once again, I told you I'm not the greatest at expressing it. So that's why it probably won't be invented, because nobody will understand what I'm talking about. but
no, it sounds like a great idea, and I can see a lot of utility for it in in doing filming and video production. Oh, by the way, it's jack of all trades, master of none.
There you go. Thank you. Very much. Yeah. So it's those things, because it's that and this thing about helping find people. Those are the two things that I tag myself as an inventor because I had the patent paperwork. I put it out. I'm getting it out there. A lot of hurdles to go through, but some of that stuff you had to put down in order to get the most immediate things done. And that has been trying to put the series out because that is real. I can actually do it myself and get it finished. And I don't want to be the old man with a whole bunch of unfinished dreams.
Yeah, I get that. You're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is our April 25th, 2014 edition, and as I said, here in Chicago, I think we've finally broken the back of winter, although maybe I shouldn't say that so loud. Tonight's special guest is Corey Burkes, and he is the head of studio operations at DesktopEpics Entertainment.
Woo-hoo!
And so you can find more about that at www.DesktopEpics, all one word, .com, or you could check out some more of his work at Corey Burkes brandyourself.com, and that's Burkes, Burkes. So
it's Irish, by the way.
Is it?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. And
what? No happy St. Patty's Day?
I was gonna.
What?
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I don't. I as a matter of fact, today I spent. This week I spent a lot of time with one of my Irish restaurant clients. Going to different places, doing different fix-up things, and I will tell you, during St. Patrick's Day, I can't keep up with them. I mean, I don't drink at all. But I mean the celebration, the feeling of goodwill and stuff like that. It's pretty unbelievable the way these people manage to party. And so you got your Irish name by way of how?
Oh, jeez.
If you don't know, you don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I refuse to fake the funk and say, well, I happen to know my genealogy. No.
Yeah.
I barely know my father.
I tell people I got the Japanese part of my last name so that I defy stereotyping.
Nice.
And thank you. It was good picking those parents out because somebody else could have had them, and plus I did the whole biracial thing before it was really popular. Before that Woods, that golfing guy, and
the golfing guy,
president, and the president. So okay, so at this point in your creative career, what are the main projects you're working on now? I mean, I suspect it's the next book in the series, and the part B of that is for you to be able to generate enough time to go around so that you can lay hands on some of these other projects and move them forward.
Exactly. What's happening now with this whole new restructuring of DesktopEpics since last year and a few years before? The goal is finish, put it, and focus on providing original content. Now, if I pull together everything that I've been doing since I was 5 years old to now, it's all about creating something original content. And amazingly, guess what everybody's talking about this year? Needing original content. I've been telling friends since DesktopEpics was established in 2004 as pretty much just a venue online to, get my stuff out there. My very first time online was that mid-2004. Back up. 1999. I did a little short animation called The N-Word, which I recently put up online. Please visit that at the Science Fiction Society. You'll see it there. And it did well. It did well. In fact, it even shut down the hosting site that I was on at the time because, data rate charges were huge. They were about to charge me $600-700 just for, because it came out to about 200,000 hits, and they were like, "What are you doing over there?" And but now these days, that's nothing. That was the first little animation I did, and after that, I've been steadily trying to put new stuff online. Now, the world changed and people had more money to get things done, but I was still putting out little things here and there and doing well. Yeah, here and there. But there was still an identity crisis for what DesktopEpics was doing. I mean, yeah, the Shiesty Club was doing okay, the little animations, but there was still like, what is DesktopEpics? And it was hard to tell what DesktopEpics was when there was no real money to make it what I needed it to be. So, let's skip a couple of years to today. All the past is clear. We now know what DesktopEpics is supposed to be, and just in time when you have companies like Amazon and Netflix and Yahoo, Microsoft, and Sony, all these guys, they're looking for original content for their programming. And, it's an exciting time. It's almost like video and film is what ebooks started out to be a few years back, where everybody could just write one and get it done. Yeah, granted, not everyone can write one well, and a real good one well, so you're going to have a lot of saturation. And yeah, not everybody's going to have everything on like a Netflix and stuff, but the opportunity is there. Because I kid you not, you could not get the attention of these major studios back in the day, early 80s. You can't say, I did this little 16mm film and I'm going to be in Paramount. No. Even if you did the film festival, good luck. These days, if you get the audience, which you can do by yourself, if you get like a lot, like millions of hits or whatnot, and you can generate that, given time and effort, you can get these guys looking at you and they'll pull some of your work. I mean, Disney just purchased this company called Maker Studios, $500 million. They've been online on YouTube with their own channel doing things for teens. And then there was another purchase recently by, I think it was DreamWorks. DreamWorks purchased something else too. In any case, these guys are making purchases. Now, not that I say that I want to be purchased by anybody, but I want to be able to provide storylines to these guys. Netflix did a beautiful play when they were about to go under a couple of years back, when, all the studios were like leaving them and, their stock tanked and they were trying to charge people more money. What are you going to do when all your material is being pulled from under you? Well, let's create our own stuff, our own original things. Brilliant. Risky, granted, but brilliant because it worked. The Orange is New Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black, yes.
Right. And House of Cards, totally original programming. They put out 10 or 14 episodes on, binge watching, all that good stuff, and it works. They're winning awards, and now it's rewriting how Hollywood does things. They're like, hey, whoa, we were about to like give Netflix the shaft. Now they're looking at the format that Netflix is doing, and that's why Amazon just came out with their little Fire TV thing, and not only that, but they're also looking to put on new original series as well. And all this is I'm saying is that what an exciting time for anybody, but particularly for DesktopEpics, because for the past few years, even if I didn't, get something off the ground completely, I've been preparing it to this day for this type of thing. I know what it takes to get something, even though, if it's hard to get it off the ground, I know what it takes to do it. And now with all the dark of, bad relationships and stuff behind me and a lot clearer focus ahead of me, I feel confident that I can get to where I want to be. And I want a series on Netflix. I want one. Like crazy. And there's a good chance of doing it, providing that I deliver a good product. And that's what's happening now with Watchband, the anime series. Not that I'm looking at Watchband as something for Netflix, but it's my entry onto the internet saying, this is Corey, this is DesktopEpics, this is the product that I can do. And training myself to say, okay, I am putting out 14 episodes, this is going to happen this date, it's going to be out, and it's going to happen. Once I got that foundation laid, then I move on to doing, the second season. And then I'm putting all this stuff together to create a consistency that will look attractive to places like Netflix and all that, because it's important to show that I'm a professional. Now, you can say, why would you want to try to go after these big guys and all that stuff. You can just do your own and your own website. Yeah, I could do that, but I still need to gain the audience, and that's what I'm doing. I'm taking things a step back, doing my summer due diligence of gaining an audience, coming on to shows, great shows such as yours, talking to people. Because let me tell you, a few years back, I was a complete introvert. I was afraid to talk to people. Can't do it. What am I going to say? Now, I'll just talk. Who cares? You wouldn't just be myself and then just enjoy it, because that's what DesktopEpics is really. I mean, aside from being me, it's about entertainment, making someone feel good. And hopefully anything I've been saying tonight, as far as others to want to just get theirs, because you can. Now's an awesome time to do it. No excuses. Get it, own it, possess it. And that's what I'm trying to do for myself. And I believe, and mark my words, next year this time, I will get to that level that I've been trying to get to, and I see it. It's on the tip of my tongue, or tip of my, it's right there. And I know it's going to be in the line of Netflix or something like that, because I want a series on that series, or any one of these guys, and I want you guys to see DesktopEpics on a TV screen, on HBO or something. But I just couldn't imagine what else my life is about. Then, why was I brought to this point in my life if it wasn't going to be for something to tell people stories in a bigger sense other than the internet? But hey, like I said, got to do my due diligence. I am putting out this Watch Band series this summer, 14 episodes starting in May. Binge watching all 14 episodes. Enjoy. Yeah, I'm doing it Netflix style because I want them to know that I can do it. And then we move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, all of the media companies, and even those that aren't media companies yet, I mean, the Hollywood studio system is going to exist for a little while longer because there's no other way to get funding for blockbusters. Okay? So as long as, Marvel Comics-based movies come out, and as long as certain stars attach themselves to certain projects, you're going to see the Hollywood studio machine exist.
Right.
But technology has leveled the playing field in terms of getting things done, in terms of production. What you can do on your own with, computer, good microphones, what have you, is it allows creative people to get their work out there in ways that they couldn't have before.
Oh, yeah.
And so with you being as determined you have a goal. You've set, you put your line in the sand. This is where I'm going to be. I'm stepping over this line, and this next year at this time, this is where I plan to be. Now, and a lot of people should take note of that because, when you set a goal and a concrete goal like that, if you stick to it and produce, make that goal happen, or you've actually committed to that goal, then I have to believe that other than catastrophe or you simply just not having any talent whatsoever, a lot of these goals are attainable because the technology makes it easy to do. I mean, you have for BlackScienceFictionSociety.com is doing its first feature movie. Okay, and it it's not a matter of putting together a big studio to push this thing along. These are just very, very dedicated creatives, very talented people who said this is going to eventually get out there. This is something that we have to do, not only for us, but it's going to be by us. And you're doing the exact same thing. Let me ask you this. Is this going to be a singular pursuit for you, or can you see bringing on other creatives, bringing them along with your venture? Or are you really focused on getting your vision out first, and then you can, circle back around and maybe pull something else together as a collaborative effort later?
That's a great question. Brilliant, actually, because I this is all part of that question. It's all about growing up, and okay, yeah, I have to do a lot of this myself because it's me, and you got to control budgeting and all that. But if I to achieve the goals that I wanted to reach now, actually, I had to rethink my whole social online networking concept and be less introverted and a little bit more extroverted, but not, And same thing with your question. In order for me to get to what I want to be next year, I have to understand the principles of, managing other people. Okay, I can say that I've learned how to manage myself over these past couple of years. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Now, time to start learning how to manage others. Now, no major studio on earth is going to take me on, hey, Corey, we want you to run like this $5 million like project. And, you got all these people running there and not having any ounce of experience of running a massive engine like that with, and I need to gain that knowledge. I need to gain that experience. And part of this is what this DesktopEpics will do. I do want to work with other people. I need to. I need to be able to be the one who says, I need to pull together this production company and this production, and they must be able to work with me. Now, I've had management experience, in my normal, regular life. I was a manager at Walmart, assistant manager.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy, that
Mm-hmm.
was an adventure. And, and that's like a similar machine, too. But, it's a different thing when you actually care about the work that you want to do and trying to run people. So you're not sitting there crying when somebody's not listening to you. No, you want to. I need to learn these things, and that's part of this process now. I'm starting off with this as myself. Yes, I do want to work with others. Yes, I want to pull together teams. I do need to learn how to temper my work ethics. One thing I do have, like if I gather a bunch of people together, or if I'm with a team of people who want to get something off the ground, I will be up 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning getting it done, wondering why isn't anybody else. And I will be mad. I will be angry. and I have to learn to pull back off of that and understand that not everybody's going to be up at that time of night. Just get what you need done and offer that segment, and so we can all work together. But all these things need to be learned. And I do want to expand. And that's the only way. I need to understand, and I do understand that expansion means adapting to the needs of, when in Rome, I can't do everything up in my room for the rest of my life. No. Yeah. Did I answer?
Well, no, that was great. To that end, are there, when you were coming up and you were, getting into the stories and you were looking at, it sounds like very, very early on, you had the movie bug in you where you said, this is where I want to go. Who were some of like the bigger influences in style and content? And you're absolutely right. All of these online companies, that, AOL, Time Warner, when they split off and or when split off from Turner, content is king. And it didn't take us very long to get to the point where the as bad as the United States of America is compared to other countries, we do have enough bandwidth now to stream video practically to everywhere.
Yes.
But now when you talk about content being king, how are you going to focus your content in a way that you think is going to pick up? Obviously if you get a bunch of people looking at it, then you garner that attention. But how are you crafting your stories to make sure that quality assurance is in your product to pull people in?
Well, thank you. Thanks for asking that. For me, and since it's the only thing I grew up with, solid storytelling wins every time. I don't know anybody who ever seen any story or any movie or any book that said, that they loved the story, but they hated let's say they loved the story. They loved the story in the book, but they hated the book. That doesn't make any sense. If you love the story, you can hate the characters, you can hate whatever, but you love the story. The story keeps you. And but we can always say, we can go to a movie and see okay, I have a friend who just saw Spider-Man 2 out in Japan because they played it out there first apparently, and he's like, the movie's okay. There's no story. The special effects are great. And you heard that all the time. Special effects are awesome, but there's no story. So, that movie does okay. But then the movies that have great special effects and great story, like Titanic and those things, and, the story actually could be debatable, whatever. But in any case, the movies that last the standard of time, the test of time, are the ones with great stories or perceived great stories by the masses. And I understand that fact because that's all I had growing up. It's like trying to develop a good story that keeps people, a certain flow, a certain type of, thing. Now, there's plenty of different styles. Everybody tells stories differently. My style is, mine, and I do fairly well with that. But as long as you tell a great story, then you can keep your people, and that's the goal. And I'm hoping to establish that first with my first series, and then the second series, and then on and on. It's like just keep rolling, and that's the goal is to gain the audience, and I think I can gain it. I know I can, actually. I can. It's just a matter of mixing what you were talking about earlier about needing to understand the business of the things. Because, I could put the series out, but if I don't get, okay, let me give you a great example. This is a great story. My failure with Kickstarter. You got a minute? Can I talk about that? Or
sure.
am I going
please.
off on the wrong?
No,
sure.
Go ahead. Because a lot of people think all they have to do is put up a campaign on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and they're going to reap whatever money they need to do for whatever project they have. And apparently you know different. So tell us about your experience.
Oh yeah, thank you. And I was one of those people because I got into Kickstarter maybe about a year after it first started, and I was like,
okay,
oh, you can make some money on this thing. I can get something off the ground. So I came up with this story called 40 to Go. It was an animated. Well, at the time, the animation I wanted to do for this series was not where I wanted it to be. I didn't have the talent that I wanted it for that. So it was going to be a motion comic. And the motion comic aspect I thought came out okay. But so I threw it up on Kickstarter, and I was trying to generate, funds for that. And I got a couple of friends, and, the time is ticking down, and I was married at the time, right? And your relationship is going to pot when not even your wife was going to, contribute to the next thing. Oh, we had epic battles. But looking, in hindsight, it's 2020. Obviously, I didn't make the money for that, and I felt really bad because I worked my butt off to get a lot of stuff done for it. I even for the series itself, I was making contacts with some stars to be on it. I had gotten in touch with the management teams for Salt and Pepper, and some people do voices for the series, and it was great. Everybody loved it. Nobody was giving me any money, but they liked the idea, and they signed off on doing it if I get where I need to go. So anyway, I didn't get where I wanted to go. I didn't get it. I was depressed, like in a mad way. I was like, "Oh, you bastards! Nobody gave me some money. All y'all saying about, it was one of those things. Hey, it was real." So, but over time, I let it go. Got rid of the wife. Now life is great, by the way. Anyway, and
now, let me give you a piece of advice from a very, very old man. Okay, seriously, and I am old. I'm older than dirt. Okay, but here's the deal: always take the high road because you never know when things are going to circle back around toward you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all
right.
I got to say.
Well, I can tell you this. She didn't read it, or she didn't read or listen to anything I did back then. I can guarantee you she's not doing it now. So, but in any case, so after that whole thing went down, and I had a great story for it. I mean, I wish the story was more for a more animated thing than motion comic, but whatever. So between that time and now, I've learned from the masters out there who have been doing well, because a lot of people do well. You still can't just throw your stuff up there. Number one tip that I'm going to give everybody. Now, I'm not running for another Kickstarter thing for a while, but one thing that does seem to work is you first got to establish yourself. You don't just jump out of it. You got to at least, like take Black Science Fiction Society. You guys succeeded. Why? Because you were established. You got the members. You knew the people. You made connections. You had that going for you. Pretty much, I had nothing. Yeah, a couple of books, and yeah, some of the fans who read the book, yeah, they contributed, but not enough fans to make me win. And I think I set my thing too high, but whatever. You guys did well, and and that's great. And other people out there did well because they established themselves first. They got their audience first. Like I remember one of the first people who got won $1 million for the Kickstarter thing was some cartoonist who was trying to get some money for the Tesla grounds and all that, and his work was okay, and I was like, why is this guy getting $1 million for his work, in like a comic book he was doing? Why? Because he had an audience prior, he had people who brought other people to him, and I seriously encourage that, get out there, like that's what I'm doing now. I'm not trying to get money from anybody else. This is coming straight from me, and and it's fine, but I'm gaining my audience. I'm learning the aspects of how to properly network on Twitter, Facebook, everything else. And it's working, and it's building. And that, maybe, down the line, I could turn around and be like, okay, my minions, Corey's hitting you up with this Kickstarter. Come get on some of this. But I should never have done that back then. I should never have done that not having anything to, like you said, just putting it out there and saying, yeah, the cash is going to come in my pocket. Very bad flaw, but things have changed. Things are a little bit more focused. And in fact, the funny thing is, I'm further along now with my work than I was trying to get money from people then. It's the most interesting thing. I can honestly say I don't need it. I got this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I was going to say, marketing is tough, and trying to. I mean, I watch people ask for donations on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or whatever for various projects, and some projects are fundable, and some projects you go, well, people have not expressed or have not explained the metrics of where the money's going and what it's necessary for and things like that, and I see those kinds of campaigns and I feel bad because I know that in certain ways, just because of the way it's described, they're not going to reach their goal because people don't see it that way or they don't understand it that way. So yeah, and that goes back to the business of doing business. If you're going to try to ask people to help you fund a project, and essentially what you're doing is you're getting investors for that project. And for those of you who are listening carefully, if you ever do a crowdsourcing, go through a crowdsourcing funding cycle, you better check the SEC regulations about getting investment funding from people, because a lot of people just get that money and then they forget that, oh no, by law, these people are now investors in your company, and there are some requirements, some expectations that you have to meet. But going back to what I said originally, being able to explain to people why you need the funding and what's in it for them. I mean, I hate to say this, but far too many people, that's the bottom line. Well, what's in it for me? Do I get a T-shirt? What's in it for me? Do I get free tickets to the grand opening? What's in it for me? Do I get this, that, or the other thing? And that's just one of the expectations you have to meet. I want to fund a movie, which I was going to try to do this year. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, but it'll probably happen next year. But one of the things that I know about funding a movie is if you want to borrow money to fund a movie, it's considered a high-risk investment. You have to be prepared to pay back 130%. And most people go, well, wait a minute. Can't they get the money on the back end or whatever? And you go, well, that is when the money comes in. But the expectation is that if somebody is funding you in a high-risk investment, you have to be prepared to pay. And that's another thing. A lot of people don't do their due diligence.
Oh, yes, that's true.
And then they get stuck. Most businesses fail in less than 2 years, and one of the biggest reasons why they fail is people don't pay their taxes. Yeah, absolutely. So, it sounds like you're taking your time and you're setting out well. A step at a time, a step here, a step there, and I certainly, man, I always wish people luck in their endeavors because it's tough. It's tough enough to get something done out there effectively, and it's certainly tough enough to start a business. Let me ask you this because, well, we got about a half an hour to go. But, here we are, 2014. You are on path to be a content creator.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
no doubt about it. That's who you're going to be. You're going to be a content creator, a purveyor of content. Where do you think you might be? I mean, if you've realistically thought this out, where are you going to be 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I will be directing a film, maybe for somebody else's studio or continue doing this. Major film. Realistically, if I stay on path, stay on track, stay on, the principles that I've been, taught or self-taught over the years and understanding how the business of things work, I want to be in a position to be directing my own film, directing films for other production companies and whatnot, and or consistently producing other films for other companies, like a major producer, like Jeffrey Katzenberg of a type. Now, that's as they would say, that's chasing a white whale in a sense. But that's the goal that I always wanted to be, in that position of being able to greenlight films, get these things off the ground, reconstruct people's stories. If I had to dumb it down to something a little bit more realistic within 5 years, it would be finishing off a couple of sets of stories. DesktopEpics has its own regularly generating web series going on. With Netflix or not, I will be producing some sort of series because consistency is such an important thing about the internet because it works for you. You got a lot of people who put out something and then, get a website and then they shut it down. And then, a couple of years later they come back up. You lost ground. Google, Yahoo, all these things, they practically work for you as long as you keep up there because, goodness, if you were to Google DesktopEpics or even better, if you were to Google Corey A. Burkes, I've got a couple of pages of Google things coming up. And thank goodness I've been able to get rid of all the bad stuff. anyway, and it's nice, because of the consistency I've been over the years of keeping DesktopEpics out there. And I want to, 5 years from now, I want to be able to turn around and, and look back at an ongoing series where somebody says, hey, I like this episode. You made me feel, whatever they wanted to feel. That's so much important to me. If I'm affecting somebody with whatever story I'm writing, and it inspires them to want to do their own film or write their own story, that's my success. Notice I haven't really said anything about money except that I wanted to have enough money just to maintain. Now, people will tell you, you got to have aspirations to have all this cash and all this other stuff. But, it'll eventually follow. And I want just to be able to affect people lovely with a good story where I can't beat that feeling walking out of a theater and it's like, wow, that was amazing. It's a rush. And I want to give that to people so badly. And it starts with a book, starts with a series, so whatever. And I want to be able to do that. And that's 5 years from now. If all I did was make somebody leave something that I wrote or produced feeling good and wanting to do something else, then I believe I did my job and I'm good to go. And that's it.
Mhm. Well, can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Yeah, please do.
What are you doing to further your talent as a director? I mean, that's a pretty ambitious role to play, especially when you are probably going to be doing it for other people and essentially spending other people's money.
Yes.
Do you have kind of like a path to getting some training, maybe film school, something like that? I'm not sure if you necessarily need it, but people are going to ask. They go, okay, so what's your experience? Why you and not not Josh Whedon? Because you're well, it'd be nice to be up against him for some. I mean, wouldn't that be cool? If you're sitting there going, oh man, it's between me and Josh.
Right.
That ain't too bad.
Not too bad at all.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm asking,
Yeah, I do. I do understand.
how do you get from here to there? What do you think your plan will be? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just curious.
No. Yeah, absolutely. No. That's a beautiful question, and it's realistic. It's realistic, and the answer is the path I'm on right now. Okay, Watchman comes out this summer into the fall, and that's okay. You may call that Corey's personal project to put him out there, but in order for more content, I'm right after the second season in the fall of this. I'm moving sharply back into doing film or video and that sort. And I'm be cutting my director's teeth through that. And hopefully the goal is to create like little video skits, direct those properly, short films online. And I was just telling my friend that it's important, now that I'm back on this kick about, being a little bit more social, it's time for me to get back, or at least attempt to get into the film festival circuit. And that's another way. Producing short films to showcase my ability to direct, get it out there. While that's working, I'm doing the little series on TV. Online.
Okay.
Keeping in the same genre, the same aspect of film, just putting myself in front of people, and that's where I have to cut my teeth. Unfortunately, I think everybody should try to go to school to study film, study direction. I think I'm getting too old, and my responsibilities are too tight for me to go to school for that now. So I have to do this more of what I know and what I can do on my own. And pass, fail, if I fail, if I succeed, or whatever, I've done it, I put it out there, and I keep working it. I get the critiques, I get the people telling me, oh, Corey, this sucked, and I was like, fine, I'll find out what make it better, and just keep moving forward. But the answer to your question, is that I need to get into festivals. I need to get more video character-driven stories, short, if anything, into the market so people can see my work, so I can go up against Josh Whedon. That.
That would be pretty cool. Now, do you do your, you talk about wanting to do animation and things and actually produce your own movies. What kinds of tools are you using now, and what kinds of tools are you looking to master in order to pull this dream off? Okay.
This is we were talking about how like this era is a really great time for people doing film, and part of that is the use of SLR cameras these days.
I'm getting the Canon myself. I'm going to get because you're absolutely right. Again, that lowers the barrier.
Oh yeah. Oh man, if I had this back in the day, I mean, it's amazing. So actually, I have one now. It's an older SLR camera, but still it does the job. And it goes back to just using what you have. And, that's part of the tools. I have a lot of, like, video equipment that I've accumulated over the years, just putting everything I can together so I can make that quality film. The computer aspect of things, which I've always had, a couple of workstations, a lot of 3D software, 3D Studio Max I use currently, Maya and Poser. Poser has become like the core of my work, and I never liked Poser coming up. I mean, when it used to be owned by Curious Labs, I believe, and then moved over to Smith Micro. I never liked Poser, but suddenly, in order to get what I want done faster, it became like, the number one software that I have to use. And I highly encourage people to cut the teeth on Poser so you can understand, camera angles against the human body.
Sure.
I really, I've done like 3 short films in my time. And even if I got like mixed reviews for them, one thing I know I always got was, hey, these are great camera angles. so and that's what's important to me, because I always wanted to do films. If I was going to shoot it right, I wanted to shoot it so you can at least know you're in a film, not some home video. And
right.
So then it just needed to take time for me to mix my ability to tell a story with the equipment, and then also do the business and also do the direction. That sort of juggling takes some time. And that's all part of the study that's going forward now. And so my computer is decked out with After Effects and everything. I needed all the stuff that I picked up over the years in order to tell something from my desktop and make it epic.
Right.
there you go. Did
well, I mean, and so, okay, so you've got a passel of homework ahead of you.
Yes.
You've got the learning of the actual the physicality, the skills, and the talents necessary to produce film.
Yeah.
You're going to, obviously you're going to have to be your own director of photography. And I mean that's a huge thing. But once you have that stable of talent, there's two things you can do. Obviously, you can do the things that you need to move your own work forward, but you can also either be hired or help other people, or even mentor others who want to acquire the same kinds of skills.
Right. Yeah. In fact, I like teaching. I do like teaching because for a little bit of time I was doing creative writing courses out in New York, and then when I came out here in Georgia, and that went well. I mean, it was it was, again, you got to market this sort of thing and get a lot of people in there, and a couple of times these classes went off very well, and I love teaching how to tell these stories passionately, and that's been a lot of fun. So I would love to mentor as well. But the only problem with mentoring is that I'm so busy trying to get my own stuff off the ground, or at least trying to get to a certain place. I feel like I'd be shortchanging somebody, and I would hate to do that because I feel like, deep down, I feel like I'm shortchanging my own children. I love them, and they watch Daddy work, and they're always saying, Daddy, I want an office like you. That's beautiful, but they're also saying like, well, Daddy, you're working a lot, and I would hate to do that to somebody I don't even know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one important thing that I want to stress. That 5 years from now, I want to be at a place where I don't have to be at such a high pressure to work as much as I'm doing now to establish myself. I want to get to a point where I'm reasonably established, where I can actually put the pen down at 5 p.m. and spend my evening with my children. Honestly, that's the true goal, because if I can do that without feeling guilty every day, and then I can turn around and do all the other stuff, and then I'll be okay. But I really want to do right for them.
Well, I mean, success breeds, a certain amount of extra money, that you, if that's what success brings out, you get to sell your work. And then, I look at money as kind of a luxury item that allows you to do things that you couldn't do otherwise.
Yes.
If you don't have to struggle to pay your rent every month, if that's taken care of, and all of your bills and this, that, and the other thing, what money does is it frees you up to really consider either doing the things you want to do, or just how better to allocate your time.
Yeah.
So that maybe you fulfill more things, or like you said, being able to do community outreach is a huge thing. We don't have enough people out there who mentor our young. We have some pretty extraordinary circumstances these days. Now we've got kids growing up who haven't known a president who was not, black. You got kids who go, oh, I want to be like the president, who never would have thought of that, because up until the election of our current president, they none of the presidents looked like our people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and being able to mentor is a huge thing. I mean, do you think that? Obviously you're going to try to do things locally, but what about the art of, and it is an art, the art of traveling to all of these Black Age shows and being able to rub elbows with other Black creatives? Is that something you're going to you're going to be tossing in the mix there?
Absolutely. Any chance I can, or be part of something, would be fantastic. And remember I was saying that I've spent a lot of my life as introverted, and an inability to. Goodness, I remember when I had an opportunity to go on a book tour, and I was like, oh, I can't do it, I couldn't. I was frightened, and these days are different, and I need to, I want to, and I need to get out there more. And that would be fantastic. I would love to. It's just, I'm new at this, but I want to master it, So yeah, absolutely. That's it. It's a tool, networking, and going to these any program and presenting yourself properly, professionally. Bringing up and expressing yourself. So it's an important tool in anyone's success.
Right.
You can't just go out and say, hey, I'm gonna be a record producer and it's gonna be fire.
Well, I mean, I get to talk to a lot of people, and all of the people that I get to talk to for this show are creatives who are substantial. Right. They put themselves out there, even if they're newer than other creatives. They're still putting themselves out there. But there's a whole list of people out there. There's a whole community that thinks just because they did something, they deserve success, or they deserve, people to support them, or they deserve an audience. And the truth of the matter is, unless you're producing something that is worthy,
right. Yeah.
you don't deserve anything.
Yeah.
People think, well, I wrote a book. I deserve some props for writing a book. Well, yes, you did finish a book, but your book was so bad, it made my children cry just looking at me reading it. That's not a great ringing endorsement. So this is good. You've got good projects ahead of you. You've got certainly some pretty creative work that is worthy. And again, wanting to go and mentor other people is really something. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What I was going to touch on that point that you mentioned about people thinking they deserve things, and I tell you where they got it, and I'll even say where I got that, because at one point I felt the same way. We are all sold, guaranteed. We are all sold on that concept. At least back in my era, was that you work hard, you will succeed. Work hard, you will succeed. I was sold on that, and I worked hard. Where's my success? So, and I remember sitting there with I remember at one point I was doing some project, I forgot what it was, and in any case, it didn't work out like I wanted. Well, Kickstarter, let's say. I worked hard. I deserved my success. And you're absolutely, positively, 100% right that it's more to it. There's nothing, you don't deserve it. It's an earned right. And it comes from your experience, from the sweat of your brow. By the way, Noah was a very good movie. Go watch that. Anyway, it was. Wait!
Oh no! You don't.
I know. I'm messing with you.
You don't throw that out and then run past me like that.
Hey, moving on.
No, yeah. Oh yeah. So okay, let me run this back at you. So this guy builds a boat. He gets only the animals that are within 20 square miles of his boat.
I know.
And then this divine creature goes and kills everybody else on Earth, including children, and then because he's mad, and then ends up with the same kind of people he killed in the beginning in the boat. Okay, I'm not going to talk about any conceptual flaws, but that's just how I see the story. But you talked about Titanic being good. I'm glad you didn't tell me the plot and everything, because don't ruin it for me. I don't know how it ends.
You don't?
Yeah, you're gonna just throw that at me? Yeah, go see Noah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have Bill Cosby's version of Noah, and that was epic. But I mean, let's go back to the fact about people thinking they deserve success. I mean, right. I've mentioned this before. So many people, so many writers here in Chicago, and I came to writing late. I came to writing in 2001, and so many writers, especially black writers, were coming to me and going, "Yeah, I'm going to write this book, and I'm going to get Oprah to put me on her show."
I heard that too.
Yeah. And I what do you say behind that?
Good luck.
I also have people come to me and go, you've written books, blah blah blah, I'm thinking of writing a book, or maybe you can help me write a book about, about something. And I go, well, what do you want to write it about? Well, I think I want to write it about my life because my life is so interesting. And sometimes I just want to say to them, well, I can't believe how that would be true because you're already born you're already boring me to death. And I know that's cruel. That's cruel, but
can you tell more truth? Can you?
Yeah, but that goes back to people having entitlement issues about just because I did something, I deserve something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you work your ass off and you get something because you worked your ass off, that is something that you deserve.
Right.
But just doing something and just calling claim to, well, I deserve this or I deserve that, I suspect that, in all cases, that's going to be a recipe for failure. Because, you're not taking into account the fact that, there's a lot of people out there who do a lot of things. Some of them deserve stuff, some of them don't. I mean, look at these Wall Street bankers. Do they really deserve, all of that money after they have ruined people? I mean, Goldman Sachs killed about 1 million people in 2000, I think it was 2006 or 2005, when they cornered the market in corn. And they jacked the price up so high that these poorer countries couldn't afford to buy subsistence rations for their people.
Wow.
I mean, do Goldman Sachs people deserve those billions? And they've gone and they've actually killed, people in countries by, just for profit. So that's a tricky thing to discuss with people, but I think if you have good values and your head is screwed on well, you don't fall into that trap. And
No.
I've mentioned a couple times, black guilt marketing. You have black folks who do something,
right.
and they expect you to go and support them just because they're black and just because they did something.
Right. And then they get a lot of them get away with somebody just patting them on the back and saying, yeah, that's great. There has to be constructive feedback on all levels. Please, if I'm doing something bad, I want to hear how bad it is so I can perfect it later. I don't want somebody to yes me to death saying, it's great. Good going, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think talented people and people who are dedicated get that because they work and they work and they work at that. And then there's a lot of people who, they come to you and they go, hey, I just did something. What's your opinion? And then when you give them your opinion, they don't want to hear anything other than they just want to hear praise. So one of the things about being a successful creative is listening to your critics and listening to your market and trying to determine on an honest level where you sit in terms of being a creative. It's more than just doing it. Did you do it well?
Yeah.
And if somebody says you didn't do it well, then it behooves you to think, well, not everybody's going to like everything of mine. Okay,
right.
Not everybody's going to like what I do, but I should at least listen to what their critique is so that I could better judge, is this legitimate or is this just a matter of somebody having a different taste in reading and art and whatever?
You know what? On that point, I'm sorry, I'll make this really brief.
Go ahead. Please, go ahead.
I remember somebody, Judy, ex-wife. One of the most important things she said to me when she was first reading my stuff, years ago, was that, okay, you're a writer, but are you a marketable writer? I'll never forget she said that because, back in the early days when I was really trying to get things out there, it helped me understand the difference between, okay, yeah, you're writing all these words on paper, but is it something, just exactly everything that you were just saying, but the way she phrased it at the time, it reminds me of what you just said. You're a writer, but are you a marketable writer? And I think, I believe now I am a marketable writer because, I sold. But that's something a lot of people need to do, is to ask themselves the hard questions. Yeah, okay, you're a rapper, but are you a marketable rapper? Ask yourself that, really. Are you this, or are you or marketable of that? Because that's all it is today. Content is king. But that's why I'm establishing Watchband now, so I can find if I'm a marketable producer, and if I use all the principles that I did in the past to get the books out there, I can be. It's just if I stay to those same type of principles. And if I fall, I will stand up and try again.
Yeah, that's the other good thing too, because a lot of people, if they get one rejection, you know, they take it so horribly personally that they stop trying.
Yes.
And that's
a crime.
That's an acquired skill too, to be able to keep going even in the face of adversity.
Oh yeah, especially in this day and age, because you got people out there who put comments into things that are downright cruel. I mean, it's not even just giving a constructive comment. It's like you got trolls out there who are like talking about your mom, you know, just because they got.
Yeah. Oh, you've read my work. Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kidding. I don't talk about anybody's mother because you just never know. Well, she's dead, and then you go, "Ooh, sorry, I didn't know."
Yeah, that kills the whole thing.
Yeah, a conversation. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean that's the other thing. You know, it sounds like you have your ear to the ground, and
Thank you.
You know, a lot of people can't take constructive criticism because really what they're looking for is praise. And if you constantly only listen to yourself, you're probably only going to please yourself.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a recipe for success.
That's right. You got to put yourself out there. You got to hear it from the people.
We've got about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would want to talk about or tell about in your creative universe that you would like people to hear about in the last few minutes of the show?
Oh yeah, sure. I want to just say real quick that I want to thank Donna Swan. Donna Swan, I love you. Thank you so much for your support. You know, it's been a wild ride this year, and my friend Donna, she's been by my side. Just want to throw that out there real quick. And outside of that, I am really proud to present the Watchman animated series. It's a series of short animations during the course of the summer, 14 episodes, moving into the next fall season. A short animated action-adventure series. If I had to put it in a category or anything, I don't know if anybody remembers the series Aeon Flux back in the 90s MTV series. Even though that series is about the woman and she gets killed, there's more of a storyline with what I'm doing, but I want to just capture that aspect of those short action-based storylines in a brief amount of time. And that's what I'm trying to do with this series, just giving you that to introduce the characters, introduce the world of these characters in the story, and then move on to the more gripping, deeper story by the second season. But right now, it's all about gaining the audience. And for those who are reading Butter, yes, the Buttercream story is on its way. But hey, I'm working on the series, but it's coming along.
Do you have an estimated time that when that might be delivered, or should they just keep a look at DesktopEpics.com to keep?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Just come by the website right now because all guns are blazing on the series right now, and I want to finish that and put it aside. And once that is done, I'll be back into the seat of writing the novels and that sort of thing, you know, and getting a little bit more of a schedule. Oh, and another tip I want to give everybody before we go is find time to write a schedule for yourself. It's so important. Like your to-do list on what you're doing, schedule your time so you can get more things done in an equal balance, because I've learned that is so much helpful to me. There you go.
And it does help you organize your time.
Yes, it does.
Well, look, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for being here. It's been great. Everything went. I mean, this a lot of great information here, and I think you're going to do quite well.
Thank you.
I'd like to remind everybody that the Black Science Fiction Society.com is doing their first full feature movie. And that's in the works, and that's and this show is on every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern live. Obviously, you can pick it up as a podcast. All of these podcasts are available of the previous. Man, it's been over a year since I've been doing the show. So, which surprises me because it really seemed like about 10 years.
Congratulations. Don't say it like that. But congratulations. Consistency, longevity, beautiful.
Yeah, the ankle bracelet helps. I mean, you know, if you have to be the same place at the same time every Friday night, it helps you get things done. And so, you know, on behalf of myself, I want to thank you for being here. This was a great interview. And now I'm going to turn it over to our peerless leader, Jarvis, and he's going to take it on home.
Thanks, William. As always, I want to thank our guest for coming on and sharing his experience in what you're doing with your projects. I had no idea of half of the things that you were doing, so thank you for sharing your time with us. Also to William for always doing a fantastic job on making everybody look good.
Thank you. I'm so happy being here. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, it was fantastic. And I want to thank everyone that tuned in, everyone that shared the information on their social networks about the show. And I want to continue to ask everyone to support the show, the site, the magazine, our book series, and our movie, Earth Squadron. We're really trying to make an impact on the black science fiction genre, and we can't do that by ourselves. We need your help to help make that happen. And it's been going great so far. We're 6 years in the game and making real change in black science fiction. So with that, we want to thank everyone for your support with the site and everything that we're doing. With that, I'm going to close it on out and have a great night, and thank you once again.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Hey.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.